Welcome to Wisdom Inspired, a podcast designed to help high achievers to eliminate burnout and overwhelm. Now let's prepare to open our hearts, our minds, and our notebooks to receive today's wisdom.
It's going to fit perfectly to not address some things, because I know as servant leaders and as humans, right, we're just human nature. Life happens and we see things and we take in things. And I thought what I saw was a very good point to continue as we talk about servant leadership. So it's not the basis of it, but it did ignite to really give some direction. So I'm sure the hottest topic today, even though you've got your list of to-do lists to do, right, is all that is broken down with the Oscars, right? I didn't even watch it last night. I didn't know until this morning. But I thought it was befitting to address what happens as servant leaders, those that are called with our lives to do things that are bigger than ourselves, because we're all human. And so today's topic is the war within, because we all are subject to that war within. None of us are above it. I'm not going to go into whose side or wrong or any of that, but it gave a very good picture of what I wanted to discuss this morning, because there is that part of us that wants and wills to do all that God has asked us to do. And then there's that part of us that is at war with that, because we have, I'll say, dual natures inside of us. And as servant leaders, we have been saved, our soul has been sealed, and we have the Spirit of Christ that lives in us. And every single day as we go about that day, that seed that has been planted is being developed, it's being nurtured, it's being grown in us so that it becomes more alive, more present. It flourishes bigger than the nature of sin that abides as well, because we're all human and we are all subject to the fall of man. So sin is there. And once you get saved, that is still a part of your flesh. It's no longer over your spirit, but it is there. There is a war that goes on in each and every one of us. That in one moment we can smile, and in the next moment we can gladly, so profoundly get up and walk up and slap the hell out of somebody in the midst of millions of Americans. It can happen just that subtly. None of us are exempt from it. No one, right? So it took me to Paul, something that Paul shares in Romans. And I'm going to read, and it comes from Romans chapter 7. And I'm going to start at verse 15. It says, "For what I am doing, I do not understand. For what I will to do, that I do not practice. But what I hate, that I do. If, then, I do what I will not to do, I agree with the law, that is good. But now, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me. For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, nothing good dwells. For to will is present with me, but how to perform what is good, I do not find. For the good that I will to do, I do not do, but the evil I will not to do, that I practice. Now, if I do what I will not to do, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me." I stopped reading. I started at verse 15 and I stopped at verse 20. How does this fit you today? How does this give you your word to apply personally and professionally to your life, this wisdom today? Well, first, I want you to give yourself a break. Allow yourself to know that the war within you has already been won. You do not live out each day to win the war. You live it out from a place of victory. understanding that the Spirit of Christ in you is already victorious. It has overcome sin. It has already won. So even in your moments that you feel that you have not done what you thought you should do, rely and trust on the victory that comes from within, that says, I have done the best that I can with what I know to be true today, and that it does not cause me to lose my right standing with God, and that I can continue on doing what God has called me to do. See, the enemy's goal, when he knows that your soul is already set for eternity to be with God, he now wants you to live with hell here on earth. He wants you to be bound in your mind so that you do not continue the good works that God has called for you to do, because you will dwell on the mistakes or the shortcomings or the fallings aside that you have. And you'll think, oh, God couldn't possibly still want me to do this. God still couldn't possibly call me to serve and lead in this manner because of this. And if he can get you to not do what God has called you to do, he has won in this realm, right? So you have to war against your mind and understand you have a right standing with God. There is no condemnation to you. There is nothing that can come against you and separate you from God, only yourself in your mind, right? So the second thing I want you to know is that you still have a power that will lead you beyond that shortcoming. If you get up and keep moving, it will not stop you. That's not the end of your story. You can't fix yourself, and God never asked you to. That is why Christ died for us, so that he could be the thing that would fix us and make us right. So as long as we continue to rely, depend, and trust on him with all of our failures and our strengths, with all of the things that we're good at and what we're not good at, with everything that we desire and we don't desire, we take it all to him. We bring it to him, and he'll use it. He'll work it out. He'll make it work for the better than we could have ever imagined. Our job is to trust and depend on him. Our job is to understand that the war has already been won. Our job every single day, even when we fall, is to rely on him, to say, in Christ, I can do all things, that nothing is obsolete or nothing can be withdrawn or withheld from me, because all of the good that God has is already inside of me. So you do not have to believe the illusion that you cannot, or that you have somehow been separated from God and you can't go forward. You have to choose in that moment to rise above it, stand in your moment, but still allow the glory of God to prevail so that you can still move forward to do the thing that God has called you to do. And lastly, to understand that your performance does not dictate your calling. How you perform doesn't dictate what God is going to do through your life. He says that as his seed continues to grow in you, your outer performance will eventually become more Christ-like as you surrender more and more of yourself to him. So you have to know that you have to stop living in your strength. Stop trying to fight a war that's already been won. Stop trying to do God's job and surrender. Give in to the power of victory that's in you, and allow yourself to know that that is just a behavior. That is just a performance. Now I need to go and do the work in my relationship with God so that he can reveal to me where I can improve and get better. And now my performance, not for man, but for God's will come forward. I will be seen more like Christ, not because I want to be accoladed or celebrated by people, but because you want to be pleasing in the sight of God. And only you and he can see that in those quiet, private places. And then you can walk out in the world with your head held high with a level of confidence that you know that you're in right standing with God, no matter what the behavior looks like. So today, I want you to know, as a servant leader, you have a war. That war will go on inside of you. And there will be moments that your behavior will not be pleasing to the eyes of others. But know that they have their shortcomings as well, and they are in no place to judge. But what you need to do is, in that moment, take even what is perceived as a failure in behavior to the God that loves you, to the God that has sealed you, to the God that has saved you, to the God that says, I'll take it and I'll make it work together for your good. Humble yourself before him and let him continue to lead and guide you and continue to pour into you so that you will be fully fit to do the thing that he has called you to do. So I hope today's wisdom inspires you, encourages you, and empowers you to move forward no matter what. You have been called to do the thing that only you can do, and God has not withdrawn his calling on you just because of your behavior. Your war within has already been won. All you have to do is surrender to the victory. Thank you so much for being here with me.
I hope you enjoyed the episode of Wisdom Inspired that was brought to you by the AAC Co-working Community, a virtual community designed to support female entrepreneurs, business owners, and freelance professionals. For more, go to wisdominspired.net.